Chapter 29, Till Death, from JE2US-A Novel. On Saturday morning, SMN seemed confused about how and what to report. They had no eyes at the previous night's event, and the Baal higher-ups were uncharacteristically hush-hush, but snippets of the story were beginning to leak. Even though a few priests were talking, the fragmented stories left too many unconnected dots to carry the plot. The whole world knew that something significant had gone down last night. Leading up to the event, Baal had been publicizing it as the religious affair of the decade. They refused to elaborate, but insinuated that it was going to be some form of showdown between the ineffable Baal and the Minneapolis Messiah, Sebastian versus Jesus. Of course, neither of them were reachable for comment. "John, it's Philip." I switched ears with my phone. "We need to get the tribe together in a half hour at the Neon. Can you make the calls?" Maddie had stayed the night again. We sat across from each other at my kitchen table trying to make sense of everything. She only remembered pieces of what happened last night. She recalled running up to Jesus on the platform, feeling the pain as Sebastian's virtual fingernails dug into her cheek, but then everything went foggy till she came back to life. Life. I looked at her and had the strange realization that I was sitting across from a girl who had been twice dead, yet here she sat thanks to a man named Jesus. Now he was gone, and none of us had the touch to bring him back. Last night I had added contrast to her foggy spaces, giving shape to the gory details. While I was telling it, she felt for her eye sockets and rubbed her forehead, trying to comprehend how that could have happened to her, and yet she was alive. "So what do we do now?" she asked, fingering the salt shaker. I just stared back at her, clueless, afraid. What were we supposed to do? Had Jesus left any breadcrumbs that we could follow? Think, Philip. Would the tribe just disintegrate now that Jesus was gone? Who was second in command? That question itself seemed ridiculous. There was no second in command. The leadership gap between looking to Jesus for guidance and anyone else from the tribe was a chasm uncrossable. "Let's just get to the Neon and talk with everyone. Maybe they'll have some ideas." We locked the door and caught the number 12 for Northeast Minneapolis. The sun was just coming up when Susie turned the key, opening the door to our refuge. She was an honorary member of the tribe now, through marriage, if nothing else, so she had become a fixture wherever we went. One by one, our crew arrived. There wasn't any joking around, no pitchers of beer. I saw fear in everyone's eyes, including James. Judas hadn't arrived yet, but we decided to start. "Let me tell you what I saw last night," I started the conversation. They had all been watching the news and had picked up bits and pieces of the story. I wasn't very far into it when Thomas cut me off. "Stop. Just tell us. Where is Jesus? Is he okay?" I scanned the tribe. When my eyes met Peter's, he broke down. Through sobs, he said, "He's gone. Gone." "What do you mean, gone?" asked Thomas. Then with frightening realization, "Dead gone?" Peter nodded. He took a deep breath to compose himself. Then, as if confessing, he said, "I was there too, Philip. I was hiding in the far shadows by the fire escape." Tears dripped from his cheeks. Susie put her hand on his back. "I should have done something. I should have helped. I'm a coward, a damn coward." He dropped his head to the table. I finished the story. Thomas seemed a bit skeptical, but to be honest, I don't blame him. If I hadn't been there, seen it, I'm not sure I'd believe it either. But then, we'd all seen the Mississippi change course. Not much seems far-fetched after witnessing that. He said he was going to give himself up as a sacrifice, said Rosalita. I guess maybe She left that thought hanging. Thomas was getting more agitated. This is not good. He had been looking over our heads. Now he nodded toward the silent TV screen above the bar. Picture after picture, they were showing Jesus and the tribe. They posted our mugshots, one by one. Peter with an angry look and his fist in the air. Rosalita making a stand in front of the city council. Simon in a Jesus t-shirt that said, "Freedom is a fight." James walking into a gun shop. Me holding the hand of a slave girl. We were all going to be targets now. Susie got up and locked the doors. If they can kill Jesus, do you think they'll give a second thought to taking us out? We're dead, people. We're dead. Thomas was starting to lose it. Just then, Judas's picture came on the monitor. He still hadn't arrived. Did you get in touch with him? I asked John. He shook his head. Susie unmuted the TV. The anchor said, in an interesting development, one of Jesus' tribe was just discovered inside the banquet hall of the ineffable Baal. The one known as Judas evidently took his own life, a bullet to the head in front of the altar. He had a portfolio with him containing $100,000 in cash, and there was a note laying on top that said, "I'll see you in hell, Sebastian." This is just one more example of the misguided. Susie muted the TV. I felt Maddie's grip tighten on my arm. We sat in silence. James broke the spell with, "We better get armed. They'll be coming for us now." John looked straight ahead and, almost as if in a trance, he said, "Fight differently. Love differently." James shook his head. "You may believe that, but they won't. They won't." Then, with more concern, he advised, "At the very least, we should all leave town for a while and let this blow over. A man that flies from his fear may find that he has only taken a shortcut to meet it." Bartholomew was rocking back and forth. He turned and looked James in the eye after he said it. James didn't respond. "Swim upstream," said John, again as if his mind was reliving the moments with Jesus. The tribe seemed to take the cue. "Come, stand by my fire," said Rosalita. "Join my tribe?" said John, remembering that moment on this very stage. "That, I want that, a globe with a heart inside," said Peter. "Life is not a commodity. Humans cannot be purchased. Souls are not for sale," said Maddie. Bartholomew chimed in. "I've turned on the radio, the AC, and maybe a touch of charm. What do you think of the car so far?" We all laughed uncomfortably, remembering the moment when Jesus had taken the governor for a walk. Tune your hearts to the key of love. We are on a mission to bring great music to our city, our world, said James, fighting his own emotions. The kingdom of heaven is a beautiful song. Each of you is an instrument. Each of you has a part to play, said John, putting his hand on James' shoulder. Sin, it is not our identity. It is not our destiny, said Susie of Live Well, Sin Well fame. The gnome who lived in a box in his own little world in the shadows of steeples, I quoted. He drank Northeast, said Susie, and he loved that sign pointing to the Mender of Broken Hearts above the bar. I can't make people love, but I can show them what real love looks like. Then Jude finished the quote with a hitch in his voice. And so can you. Andrew said, the Mississippi changed course, and Jesus said we would do greater miracles than him. That stopped the flow for a bit. I am the road, the reality, the breath. All paths to the Father lead through me. Until we learn to love differently, we can never be free. Remember the kite on the Stone Arch Bridge? Asked James. We all did. Rosalita, hand me your watch, she said. It was still missing from her arm. Thomas, hand me your skepticism. He looked down as he said it. One by one, we each recited the thing he had asked us to give up. James, hand me your fear. Bartholomew, may I have your confusion. Philip, hand me your insecurities. John, hand me your career. Peter, your gun. Maddie, hand me your hatred and anger. It continued till Jude wrapped up the reminiscence from the bridge with, freedom isn't found in flying, it's in being flown. Who holds your string? Andrew changed the scene. Remember on the airplane to DC when he said, I have come to be your way out, your way up? Or when he was holding that little girl by the river, he said, I am bound, but I am free. I have been bought, yet I am an heir. I am a slave, but I am my master's beloved son. And I have come inviting you to shackle yourselves to this freedom, this love. Rosalita paused. I'm still trying to fully understand that. Maddie, holding her hand to her cheek, said, has anyone ever painted a portrait of you, Maddie? I smiled and said, and then you asked, am I really that beautiful? Do you remember what he said? I smiled and said, no, Maddie nodded and quoted, you are far more beautiful than this. You are, Maddie, said Susie with a hug. What if I told you my plan was to love the world? Peter quoted, shaking his head. I wish I hadn't questioned him. Love is a blueprint, the blueprint. That's how he followed up, said Susie. With great emotion, Peter followed with, I, Jesus, take you, Peter. Susie looked at him lovingly, then held up her hand, displaying her ring. This used to be a gun, Peter. You are loving differently. She leaned into him. Yeah, he loved the L word, said Rosalita. I memorized one of my favorite things he said about love. It can't be conjured, purchased, or manufactured. It can't be captured, controlled, or manipulated. And it can't be subdued, silenced, or murdered. She paused. Real love is the most powerful force that exists. With it, humanity is transformed. Without it, humanity is lost. There was silence for a moment. Then Andrew raised his arms in the air and said, live well, love well. We all repeated it. The quotes continued, randomly recited as they were remembered. There's hope for now if you got hope for later. I am your insurance agent. There, you're covered. I bring you freedom, freedom in the middle of slavery, peace in the middle of chaos, contentment in the middle of want, love in the middle of abandonment. I smell the fragrance of a violet not yet opened. Father John said that, remember? He knew. He knew. I have chosen to lay down my life so that you, each of you, will no longer be slaves to the current of sin. I am your forgiveness. I am your ride upstream. I have been sent to reconcile all of humanity back to my Father. When the time is right, when the time is right, I bid myself, my body for the painting. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. And finally, till death do us part. It was silent for a while. We had just walked through a year of memories, memories of the one we had known intimately. one who had known us more completely than we knew ourselves, one we still didn't understand, one we loved, and the one who held the string to each of our floundering, aching hearts. We said goodbye to Jesus and climbed into our inflatable rafts on an ocean of unknown currents. We went our separate ways, unsure if and when we might be together again. The neon sign above the bar flickered, then went out.